credit to Bukowski when he said that you have to die a few times before you can truly live. And if you've played it safe and have never pushed beyond your comfortable boundaries, it's very difficult to understand and pick apart what exactly he means by that. And I tell you what, I took a trip to Colombia, and I went to a small town not too far from Medellin. Gorgeous landscapes, right? Lush, sort of forest, mountains, rivers, fresh, mist, coffee. It was amazing. And I booked a hike for the next morning. I'm only there for a day or two. Book a hike for the next morning. And it had been a very wet couple of months. So it was raining every day. And I only took a pair of New Balances. So you could only imagine what that was like. I get up the next morning. I'm looking for the dude. He's a young guy, but he's got his hiking gear on. And I'm like, all right, whatever comes, whatever comes. So we hiked to this place. And mind you, there was no one on that trail except a couple of people cutting down trees. And other than that, we didn't see anybody else on that trail. And, I guess looking back now, had I known what I got myself into, I probably wouldn't have done it. But there was no turning back, right? At this point, we were on the trail. There was no way to get back. So at one point we got to a part of the trail that was very slippery. All the rocks were like butter, extremely slippery. And so what happened was we get to a part where it's a pretty steep decline. And so I have to get up. I don't know if it was up or down, but whatever the point was, I believe it was down. And so I knew that if we're obviously headed to the waterfall, but I knew that if I had any misstep, like I was going to die. Like there was no way about it. And luckily, like there was this one moment where I was like, any bit of hesitation, trepidation, any sort of doubt in my mind and I make the tiniest mistake, I was going to slip and fall. And that's what it felt like. And so there was one step in particular that I still remember to this day where I felt like it was centimeters away from calling it a day. Because if I would have fallen, I would have fallen all the way down to the bottom of the river. And I mean, it was a deep slope. And so, just once I finally got home, I was like, I'm so glad to be alive. But I was like, what was I thinking, And naturally what comes to mind when you go through something like that, when you put yourself in those sort of face-to-face to death moments, right, where you're testing your own mortality, what you come away with is an appreciation for life because you realize how delicate that balance is. And it may come to you, right? This moment of immortality may come to you when you're not ready, when you don't want it to happen, when you haven't done all that you can, when you haven't mustered the courage to get up and do something different. And I think the point of that whole scenario, the exercise, if you will, was that it's supposed to enliven your spirit. It's supposed to wake you up out of your stupor. It's supposed to get you to get up and do something, anything at that point, because life is that short. Life is that delicate. Nature will get its moments with you, and you'll be face to face with that moment sooner, probably rather than later. And so, if anything, it should be a wake-up call that says, hey, wait a minute, I've been taking it easy. I've been on cruise control for far too long. I've been tepid for far too much of my life. I haven't taken the necessary risks to really see what I'm made out of and what I can get out of life. What sort of nectar can I squeeze out of what I've been given. And I think that's the journey, that's the beauty, that's the artwork, that's the alchemy. And those are the steps you have to take, is that you first have to be face to face with death, and then you wake up and you realize, like, damn, I'm alive for however long I am. And however difficult it is to constantly have to force yourself to get going and get moving, that's the point, right? And if you need to constantly wake yourself up and get those wake up calls, then maybe that's what you need to do to sort of kind of ruse yourself, right? Because too many people are sleepwalking. Too many men in particular are taking the easy route, right? Are going the paved path and are coming away with nothing really to show for it, nothing worth telling anyone about. No stories, no sort of lore, no scenery, no setting, no experiences that you can go ahead and deliver to those around you. And there isn't enough of a response that you can look back and say, hey, I've done these many things, and here it is, right? Here is the body of work that I've been able to accomplish. And I think every man should try to at least push themselves to do that. But you first need that scenario that's going to make you get to that point. Because I'll tell you what, like, I couldn't stop thinking about how stupid it was, but also how necessary I needed that moment, right? I needed to feel like I was going to die, to really appreciate the fact that, like, I have to take every and each ounce of opportunity that I can to do all the things that I want to do, right? I'm not looking to do the things that are expected of me or that I see other people do, right? But the things that truly do speak to my soul, right? In a way that comes natural to me, right? That comes easy in many ways, but also that I want that challenge to sort of invigorate me, enliven my spirit, and make me better. And I think that was the whole logic to why I wanted to do that hike in particular, in a terrain in a country I had probably no business going into, in a small town where hardly any tourists go to, for that reason, right? Because I wanted to come out a different person. I wanted to look at myself and be proud of something, right? Um, because many times we doubt our capabilities. We don't have enough in the tank to say, hey, I've done this many things that tells me I'm exactly where I need to be, or I deserve all the things that have come my way. And so, putting yourself in those difficult circumstances will inevitably give you those type of results. It'll give you that type of feeling. It'll make you want to do things that you perhaps wouldn't have done, because you're getting a fresh perspective on life, right? One that you couldn't get in any other way besides digging into the dirt, getting mud in your fingernails, feeling the mist, feeling the power of nature and what it could do to you, and how susceptible we are to its vagaries. And so, different from other close calls or close encounters with death that I've had, that one was way more carnal. It was in my face. It wasn't like I was in a car I could be shielded through metal or plastic. It wasn't like a gunshot, right, that I could, I guess, potentially run away from and duck. There was no running away. I had to face my fears head on. And like I said, I was able to get out of the situation, not by feeling a little bit like I tested myself too much, right? Perhaps. But like I said, the whole exercise was to what? To feel that there was something left for me after this experience, right? That I would be able to become something more, that I'd be able to push myself to do more with what I've been given. And what I've been given is a lot. So, and even if you think that you haven't, you have to really look back and think, what is it that I can do to make what I can with what I have? And I think that's sort of like the journey. That's the journey that all men should be on, is make do with what you have, however little or however a lot you have of something, but do something with it, create, and inspire and mentor, and share with the world. And I think many blessings will come from getting at the world from that perspective. Anyhow, I hope this